first episode, my vlog. I have a word for you. I have a word of encouragement. This may surprise you. The word is actually a command. But it's encouraging. And it is this. In Matthew 6, Jesus says this, therefore do not worry. And a bunch of times in Matthew 6, he says that. In verse 25, I say to you, do not worry about your life. And he's talking about provision, and he's talking about how to take care of yourself and all these different things. And he says, why do you worry? Why do you worry? Verse 28, about clothing. Consider the lilies of the field, and so on. But then he says this really radical thing in verse 34. He's talking about worrying about how you're going to take care of yourself and getting obsessed with it, because that's what the Gentiles do. In verse 34, he says this, therefore do not worry about tomorrow. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. It almost seems offensive that Jesus would say that. Do not worry about tomorrow. It actually seems ridiculous. And if you think about the anxiety that's in the world right now, everybody's anxious. You can feel anxiety. You can feel fear. But the funny thing about the Bible, it's not funny. He's saying, don't do it. Whenever God says don't do something, don't, like in the Old Testament, don't commit adultery, don't steal. It actually, the commandment has the power to do it. So it seems ridiculous he would say to us, don't worry about tomorrow. Because everybody worries about tomorrow. And it's not like God's saying, oh, you can worry about these things. It makes sense. It makes sense for you to worry about these things, but don't worry about those things. In Philippians 4:6, it says, don't worry about anything. And the Luke account, in Luke chapter 12, he says, don't have an anxious mind. So if we understand this as a commandment, it's actually a boundary that will help us. I'm not going to be afraid because God says don't do it. So if he's saying for us not to do it, it must be possible for us to live a worry-free life. Years ago, I was speaking to someone who struggled with a huge amount of anxiety and panic attacks. And I said to her, the Bible says, don't worry. She actually got super angry at me. I get it. I get it that this in a way is offensive. But I want to tell you it's possible to not worry. In the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of all the stress of the world, it's possible not to worry. I want to tell you a quick story. When I was younger than I am now, I had a job of cleaning my dad's shop. And it was in an industrial area in Winnipeg, and when I came outside, a German Shepherd charged me, and I was terrified. But what's interesting about this story is there was a fence. But guess what? I still felt the fear. So the tricky thing about fear is it feels so real, like you have no option. You have no option not to be afraid. And Jesus is saying, don't be afraid. But here's the thing. God promises some things to us, and we don't need to be afraid. So what's the key? I'll tell you what the key for me is in overcoming worry. It helps me that I know it's a commandment. Jesus said also in Matthew 6, are you not much more valuable than they? We have value. God knows us. He cares about us. So here's what I do. Romans 8:15. Christians have not received a spirit that makes us a slave to fear, but we've received the Spirit by which we cry out, Abba, Father. So when I'm afraid, I don't deny that I'm afraid. Yeah, there's real worries. Jesus said, even in Matthew 6, sufficient for the day is its own trouble. When I'm afraid, I say, Father, my connection with the Father, and I give him my fear. And next time we chat, I'm going to talk to you about the danger of speaking out your fears without connection with the Father. That's actually dangerous. So love you guys. Bye.
Whoa!